I guess we started with the topic, that is the continental drift theory. So what is the idea of drifting of the continents? The idea of the drifting of the continents is there is change in the climate, right? Plus there is some force that is causing the drifting of the continents. Plus the continents change their position. And because of the continents changing their position, there are changes in relief, geomorphology, mountains, etc. There is changes in magnetic inclination of the rocks. Magnetic inclination means how the magnetic field of the rocks behave. There is a changes in the magnetic inclination of the rocks. Third, there is changes in the climate of an area. Will the past climate change due to continental drift? Will there be changes in the previous climates? If the continent goes from one place to another, will the past climate change or not? Yes, the past climate will change. So when you study the past climate, how it has changed. Past means ancient, means paleo, and this is we are studying climate. So question agar aata hai paleo, write a short note on the paleoclimatic evidences or paleoclimates, means you have to show how the climates have changed over the past. You already know the law, that is the only thing permanent is change, and the study of the present day topography is an out of will be studied by when we understand what are the past geomorphic processes that are operating. So present impressions on the leaf features gives an idea about the past geomorphic processes. Is climate a part of process? Yes, climate is a part of process. Fine. And when we study the past magnetic inclination, ये थोड़ा difficult है. It is known as paleomagnetism. Rest of the things you already know, how the position and the relief features have changed, though Wegener kuch relief feature ke bare mein batata nahi. Relief feature has changed means Pangaea got broke into the Gondwana land and the Angara land. Then there was a formation of the Tethys Sea. Uske baad all the continents started drifting westwards and northwards. The westward drift was due to the tidal force. The northward drift was due to the gravitational pull and the law of flotation. Dono force are wrong. Fine, there is nothing such as this. Uske baad the continents such as Gondwana land further broke into South America, Africa, Madagascar, Australia, Antarctica and peninsular India. Peninsular India, that is the part which is to the south of Tropic of Cancer. So what is the part of Gondwana land? One shortcut to remember, all the continents which are in the southern hemisphere, Africa ho, South America ho, Antarctica ho, or the Australia ho, plus peninsular India is the Gondwana land. And then the Angara land or the Laurasia ka dusra name is the Angara land, broke into two parts. What are the two parts of the breaking of the Angara land? That is the North America and the Eurasia. Fine. After that, why the breaking, etc., again don't worry. Wegener ke theory mein we don't understand this, but because of the Wegener's theory, did he give the idea ki how the drift has occurred, or he gave the idea that the continents have moved? Usse pehle what was there? There was a concept of permanency of ocean basins, and the continents, means continents and the ocean basins are at the permanent position, but this idea was challenged by the Wegener in the continental drift theory. When he challenged this idea, though he was initially laughed, but I told you there are some of the evidences of the continental drift theory, and due to these evidences we know that continents have moved, continents have drifted. So because of this, scientists could study the continents have drifted. Though Wegener ka wrong point was he could not explain what was the force responsible for the drift, but yes, continents have drifted. And then the force was studied by Arthur Holmes, and he told that the continents are not drifting due to the tidal force or this any other force, it is drifting due to the convectional currents. हमने एक फोटो देखा है in which we saw how hot the interior of the earth is, and because of the interior of the earth being hot, the hot magma rises upwards along with the water vapor. It has enough power, 200 kilometer का thickness है of magma. So imagine the 200 kilometers thick magma, when it is rising upwards, it is being blocked by the ऊपर का continental land mass or oceanic crust and the continental crust. It is being blocked by the crust. Because it is being blocked by the crust, it will get deflected. As it is getting completely deflected, oceanic crust, which is very very thin, 5 kilometers, it is then broken by the convectional currents. You will understand this over the period of time. But does a vapor which is originating from your boiled water, if you cover wo bartan or if you cover that vessel with a lid, does the vapor have enough power to displace or move the lid? Yes, vapor can easily move the lid. So similarly, lid, why that is a dhakkan on the top of a vessel. So why that lid can be moved by the vapor, boiling vapor? Because lid is very very thin. So crust, can I say, is a dhakkan, and the asthenosphere or magma is the boiling some liquid inside, and that can easily move the lid. So when this thing is happening, convectional currents cause movement of the continents. Then it was studied by seafloor spreading by Harry Hess, and ultimately the continents have moved, and due to the movement of the continents, there are exactly cause effect mechanism was given by the plate tectonics theory. The most important theory in geomorphology is the plate tectonics theory. Not a single scientist, because though the idea of plate, jo NCERT कहता है, was given by Morgan Mackenzie, yes, the idea of plate was given, but the tectonics, that is the movement of the plates, was given by numerous scientists. And the plate tectonics tells you about earthquake, tsunami, mountains, relief features, everything that is present on the earth, which is based on the interiors of the earth. Then we have regarding the exteriors of the earth, we have Davis and Peng, jo hum over the period of time karenge. But had there been no Wegener, tell me, had there been no Wegener, so would the idea of drifting of the continents been reality? No, nobody would have known properly ki हाँ continents have drifted. We would have still thought ki mountains are formed because of gods, earthquakes are formed due to gods, volcanoes are formed due to gods. But it is the Wegener who gave this idea ki this is the cause and effect mechanism of the formation of the relief features. फिर उसके बाद, yes, Arctic region, नहीं, Pangaea का some part was in Antarctica, not entire Pangaea. So if this is the South Pole and if this is the North Pole, this is how the Pangaea was located. This entire landmass was Pangaea. Yeah, it was to some extent touching the Arctic region, but mostly in the Antarctica. अब क्यों, what is the question is क्यों? Because उससे पहले के आइडिया हमें पता नहीं. We just know कि ये अकेला Pangaea नहीं है. इससे पहले there were 5 times the Pangaea was formed and destroyed. So Wegener's Pangaea was the 5th Pangaea. उससे पहले there were 4 more Pangaeas, and they were created and destroyed over the period of time. Wegener's Pangaea was not the first Pangaea, but limitation, shift computer building. And Wegener's Pangaea is not the last Pangaea. You have seen in the animation 250 million years afterwards there will be again one more Pangaea. हमने एक वीडियो देखा था. In that we have seen an animation ki one more Pangaea will be created after 250 million years. So Pangaea is created and destroyed. Getting it? We just study what are this. So before I can start with the Wegener's continental drift theory, can you tell me ki plate tectonics is nothing but an improvement of continental drift? A basic idea is same ki the plates are moving. Sirf continental drift says, what does the plate tectonics do? It refines the continental drift theory. How does it refine? Force हाँ properly बताता है. It is not an original idea. Drifting idea has been taken from the Wegener. The force has been taken from Arthur Holmes. Seafloor spreading idea has been taken from Harry Hess, and बन गया एक, after that combined all the ideas, put it in the computer modeling, and we have one very big theory, grand theory, what is known as a plate tectonics theory. Fine. So it is an improvement. So if you look at the past year questions, GS में पूछते हैं continental drift. In the optional, I guess agar continental drift comes, it will be very easy. So what they ask you in the continental drift in the optional is evidences. Fine. Or critically analyze. Critically analyze means you should give the negative points and also tell the positive points and come to a conclusion. Or the most common question in optional is how the theory of plate tectonics is an improvement of Wegener. Fine. Then next, आजकल जो short note में they are asking you is this two. Write a short note on paleomagnetism, write a short note on paleoclimatic evidences. Paleo, past climate. How the past climate has moved over the period of time. Getting it? Fine. So you can take down the drifting, continental drift theory. Introduction. Continental drift theory. This topic will come in a one major topic, the theories of landform development or the formation of Earth's crust. This all will be the part of our syllabus, formation of the Earth's crust. And उसमें से सबसे पहले the continental drift theory. Before we begin to the continental drift theory, some few observations. Where is the major landmass situated, in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere? In the northern hemisphere. But where is the landmass? At which pole is the land? North pole or south pole? Where is the land? South pole mein there is an Antarctica, north pole mein there is Arctic Ocean. Fine. But the major landmass is still in the northern hemisphere. That means, can you go to the Wegener's continental drift theory and see where was Pangaea? Still in the south pole. And ऊपर कुछ नहीं था. What his question was, why the Pangaea is not in the Arctic? Because there was nothing in the Arctic. Pangaea was just touching the Arctic. Even today, though the northern hemisphere is full of continents, North Pole is still a water body. Though the southern hemisphere is dominated by the water body, South Pole is the landmass. Because historical arrangement was this. Right? Why the historical arrangement was this? Though there is one theory which explains this properly, it is known as tetrahedral hypothesis, but that theory has been rejected, not a part of our syllabus, because except for this it does not explain anything. I'll just give you what his theory वो कहता है कि Earth is a rotating ball of fire. It started cooling. Because of cooling, there was settling in the different densities. Then the crust also started to cool. As the crust started to cool, crust is divided into two parts, continental crust and the oceanic crust. Which is more denser, continental or oceanic crust? Oceanic crust is more denser. So as the oceanic crust started cooling, some part of the oceanic crust collapsed or continental crust रहेगा at a greater height. Fine. Over the period of time, even the continental crust started cooling. Because the continental crust started cooling, the Earth, instead of being a sphere, this theory says Earth is not round. Instead of being a sphere, it is made up of triangular form. It is triangular in form, and there are some edges of the triangle which are at the top. Matlab, if it has become pyramid, Earth has become like a pyramid. So some part of the pyramid ka top has been exposed, and that top of the pyramid is the continent. जो part collapse हो गया, that is the ocean. क्यों हम ये theory नहीं कर रहे? It defies everything. कि Earth आज भी पता है हमें is round. Earth is not triangular in shape. So ऐसी theory करके फायदा क्या है? Getting it? Is it Earth triangular in shape? When we see a sphere, is it triangular in shape? Our entire idea of the Earth is based on Earth is sphere. So Earth rotates. Our satellite communication has shown that Earth is round. Earth is not what? Lothian Green says tetrahedral. This is what is a tetrahedron. वो कहता है this part is oceans जो नीचे चला गया, and this part are the continents. Fine, but so this is not the case. The permanency of positions. has been challenged by major theories such as continental drift theory, seafloor spreading theory, and the other theories of the landform development and the other theories of the landform development. 22 पे रखना, 27 पे. And the other theories of the landform development. Other theories of landform development. It has been observed that point number 1, it has been observed that point number 1, there is more concentration of landmass in northern hemisphere bracket में 75% of the landmass, while there is more concentration of water in southern hemisphere. Point number 2, except for Australia and Antarctica, most of the continents are roughly triangular in shape. Most of the continents are roughly triangular in shape. Point number 3, majority of the oceans are also triangular in shape. Majority of the oceans are also triangular in shape. Full stop. Now look, most of the continents are triangular in shape. Roughly triangle, Asia, triangular in shape, obviously not Australia. ये है triangular in shape, India. This is triangular in shape. Fine, Atlantic Ocean. This is also triangular in shape. If I bring Asia here, यहाँ पे Asia है, याद रखना. So this is also what is the triangular in shape, and even the Indian Ocean is triangular in shape. Getting it? So how is the ocean triangular in shape? This is the Atlantic Ocean. How is the Pacific Ocean triangular in shape? This is the Pacific Ocean. How is the Indian Ocean triangular in shape? This is the Indian Ocean. How is Asia triangular in shape? This is what is the roughly Asia triangular in shape. This is how is the North America triangular in shape. This is how is the South America triangular in shape. This is how the Africa is triangular in shape. So can you see a major difference here? देखो, you must have not ever thought in this way. The continents are arranged and the oceans are arranged in such a way, the base of a triangle for the oceans, the base of the triangle here, and the base of the triangle for the continents is in the north. But for the oceans, the base of a triangle is in the south. Getting it? अगर triangle है and if we are considering ocean as a triangle, उसका base is here, this is the apex. On the other hand, take any continent, this is the base and this is the apex. Getting it? Fine? So that is the next point. That is, the triangles are arranged in such a manner that for the continents, the base is to the north and apex is to the south. The base is to the north and apex is to the south. And for the oceans, the base is to the south and apex is to the north. And apex is to the north. Just remember this one word. हमने ये इसलिए लिखा है because you should know one word. This is known as antipodal. Antipoles, एक दूसरे के poles are opposite to each other. This is known as an antipodal arrangement of continents and landmass. Antipodal arrangement of the continents and landmass. Antipodal arrangement of continents, and water bodies. Continents and water bodies, not landmass. Continents and water bodies. एक ही exception है, कौन सा? ऑस्ट्रेलिया. अंटार्कटिका भी दूसरा exception है. Why we are not considering Arctic and Antarctic as an ocean separately? तीन ही ocean, because naturally there are only 3 oceans. Fine. 2000 tak there was not even Antarctic Ocean. Then the international community decided to name the water combined of Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean below 60 degrees south as the Antarctic Ocean. Antarctic Ocean वो सब कोई natural ocean नहीं है. Natural oceans are only 3. Fine. Arctic Ocean, somewhat water of Pangaea that has been trapped now in the northern hemisphere, but main 3 oceans are there. I have given you a very fast overview of the continental drift theory in the previous lecture. Usme bhi we have seen the theory talks only about Panthalassa being reduced in size, forming the Pacific Ocean, westward movement Atlantic Ocean, northward movement Indian Ocean. It also explains why the Indian Ocean is closed, because India has gone, Africa has gone to the north and it has collided with the Asia, and hence Indian Ocean is the only ocean that is an example of an closed ocean. Baki these continents have moved westwards and therefore gap has been opened, and therefore Atlantic is open, therefore Pacific is open ocean, but Indian Ocean is enclosed from all the sides. Getting it? So now the continental drift theory. the now take down the introduction. The antipodal arrangement, the antipodal arrangement getting what is antipodal arrangement, comma, comma, paleoclimatic evidences, paleoclimatic evidences, paleoclimatic evidences, comma, changes in the relief features, changes in the relief features, has been explained with numerous theories, has been explained with numerous theories, out of which the most significant one is the concept of the most significant one is the concept of continental drift. Most significant one is the concept of continental drift. किसकी पढ़ते हैं हम कॉन्टिनेंटल ड्रिफ्ट थियरी? वेगनर की. Is it the first person? No. Who is the first person? Antonio Snyder. So, though the concept was initially given by Antonio, though the concept was initially given by Antonio Snyder, (1858), he gave the concept in 1858. S-I-N-D-E-R, Snyder, comma, F.G. Taylor or Taylor, T-A-Y-L-O-R, F.G. Taylor. 1908 में, ये सब एग्जाम के लिए याद मत रखो, 1908 वो सब, जस्ट रिमेंबर द नेम्स फॉर इंट्रोडक्शन. द मोस्ट proper theory was given by Alfred Wegener. The most proper theory was given by Professor Alfred Wegener. When? 1912. And then uska English translation in 1924. So you see so much afterwards Antonio Snyder. So the first person is the Antonio Snyder. But why do we study his theory? Because ये Antonio ने या F.G. Taylor ने सिर्फ idea दिया था. Idea is giving is very easy. To explain it with the help of scientific theory, कि these are the steps. See, what is the basic difference between idea and a theory? Idea anyone can give. For giving a theory, there has to be cause and effect. It has to be proved. For proving, it has to be based on the universal truth. And then it becomes a theory. So the person who gives the theory is the most important person, and therefore we study it with the continental drift theory of Alfred Wegener. Fine. Basic premise of the theory. Note down only in the points, and exam mein bhi aise hi likhna. Introduction, then basic idea of the theory or basic premise of the theory. Basic premise means why the theory was given, what were the assumptions in this theory, etc. So first basic assumption or basic premise is the theory aims to study past climatic changes. I told you Wegener was botanist or climatologist. He was not a geomorphologist. So the theory aims to study past climatic changes, but formed due to drifting of the continents, but due to drifting of the continents. Climates have changed in the past, but why the climates have changed? Because continents का position have changed in the past. Drifting of the continents. देखो हमने ये अभी 3-4 बार किया है. If India was located here, then India went up, then India went up, then India went up. So has it drifted? Means drifting means moved. Has it? Yes. So because it has drifted, will it experience this time यहाँ का climate, then here climate, then what is the climate here? And because the climate has changed, the structure of the rocks, will it be same or change? Change. That is what I have made you write. Past climatic changes due to the drifting of the continents. Fine. Second, it assumes that Sial floats on Sima. Sial, silica and aluminum, floats on Sima, silica and magnesium, without any resistance. Without any resistance. बाद में what did Wegener told? Remember the day before yesterday's lecture कि the mountains are formed because Sial is resisting the Sima. And what does he assume? That Sial floats on Sima without any resistance. So क्या है? Contradictions in his theory. Right? Third, according to him, there are two forces which cause the drift. Two forces which cause the drift. What was the first force? मतलब write down in sub points two forces. So एक force है, what is causing the westward movement? Tidal force. Two forces which cause the drift. A, tidal force, which cause westward movement of the continents, which caused westward movement of the continents, and B, differential gravitational force, differential gravitational force, and the force of buoyancy. What is the differential gravitation force and force of buoyancy? It is nothing but the difference between the gravitational force and the force of buoyancy. What is the force of buoyancy? Force of buoyancy is nothing but floating. Anything that when it is thrown in the water, हर चीज डूबती नहीं है. Some of them float, and that is the buoyancy. Is there any force known as force of buoyancy? No. It is just nothing but floating. The concept of floating. So second force करके force ही नहीं है. There is nothing in the world which is known as force of buoyancy. That is his second mistake. Getting it? अब इसको कितना कॉम्प्लिकेट बना दिया. दैट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन द ग्रेविटेशनल फोर्स एंड द फोर्स ऑफ buoyancy, बट देयर इज नथिंग सच एज फोर्स ऑफ buoyancy. If you are thrown into the water, you will float, fine, not because your body is putting some force into the water. It is nothing but resistance of the difference in the densities. If iron is thrown in the water, it will not float. Why? Because the mass and density is greater, so it will sink. If sponge is thrown in the water, it will float. If ship is thrown in the water, 9 part of it will go down, 1 part will float. So there is no force. Getting it? So don't get afraid by what is this word. There is nothing such as force of buoyancy. Force is, it is just buoyancy, matlab floating. Where is the gravitational force maximum on the earth? At the poles or at the equator? Gravitational force सबसे ज़्यादा. Why? Because gravitational force is inversely proportional to distance. Jitna greater is the distance, utna lesser is the gravitational force. Sun ka gravitational force is more powerful on us or moon ka? Moon ka. Why? Moon is nearer to us. Sun ka is not that powerful. Getting it? So gravitational force is maximum at the poles. According to him, gravitational force is maximum at the equator. Getting it? But ऐसा इसलिए second करके force है ही नहीं कोई, so इसलिए don't worry. But ये सिर्फ we are writing his theory, we are not critically analyzing his theory. We will later on critically analyze, but we are writing his theory. So the second force में लिखना, this led to the movement of continents northwards. Movement of continents northwards, that is towards the equator. That is towards the equator. Movement of continents northwards towards the equator. See, he has to prove somehow कि why India में there is formation of the, yeah, India, Brazil में there is a formation of the glaciated evidence. So he already has known कि India was a part of Pangaea and Pangaea was located at the south. So अब India, how it has gone to the north? He has to prove that. So कैसे prove करेगा? लगा दिया gravitational force कि India has been pulled to the north. Africa has been pulled to the north. How? कैसे prove करेगा कि this has opened up? लगा दिया tidal force कि they are moving to the west. But both the forces are not that important. Those who are getting doubt about the gravitational force, see, earth is flat, then it bulges at the equator, and then again the earth is flat. This is how flat bulges at the equator. This is the center of the earth. This is the north pole and the south pole, and this is the center. This distance is greater than this distance. Can you understand this? Why? Because the earth is bulging. So because distance increases, gravitational force decreases. Gravity is attraction, and attraction always is based on the distance. Jitna zyada distance, utna matter more gravitational pull. Getting it? Because the earth is bulging. This is how the earth is. We will study in GS, and you will study in GS irrespective of where the class you are doing. One fact you are going to study, the highest mountain on the earth is Mount Everest, no doubt. But the highest mountain on the earth, when measured from the center of the earth, that is, if you go deep inside the earth, yes, see matlab core, deep inside the earth. Getting it? अंदर जा रहे हो आप अर्थ के. So Mount Everest is located here. There is Mount Chimborazo in Chile. That is the highest mountain on the earth when measured from deep inside the earth, because it is located exactly on the equator and earth is bulging at the equator. So, if you are measuring something, Mount Everest here, this is how the Mount Everest is, and this is how the Mount Chimborazo may be. If you are measuring the height of the mountain from the surface, yes, Mount Everest no doubt is highest. But if you are going 6,000 kilometers, 6,400 kilometers deep, and if you are measuring the height of any mountain from here, because earth is bulging at the equator, Mount Chimborazo, which is there, will be the highest mountain. You don't have to worry about these things, because this is so common question which UPSC has asked more than once, indirectly, directly, that when you will start giving prelims ka test series, each and every test series in the market will be asking you this question. Fine. So that is the most common, Mount Chimborazo. Why? Because you are measuring from inside the earth, not from the surface. Similarly, one more question is important. If this is the Mount Everest, if this is there and there is ocean, this is the ocean floor, then highest mountain again from the surface, Mount Everest. Fine. Mount Chimborazo, when you start measuring from deep inside the earth, and I say one of the highest relief feature on the earth is Hawaii Islands. This is 4,000 meters deep. This is 8,500 meters in height. This is 4,000 meters in height. But kahan se? 4,000 meters from here, that is from the 0 kilometers. But it is not floating, and if you want to actually measure it, iska height becomes 6,000 plus 4,000. How much exactly is the height? 10,000. So these are small three important points: Mount Everest, Mount Chimborazo and Hawaii Islands. इसलिए UPSC इतने बार Hawaii Islands के बारे में क्वेश्चन पूछता है. They start from the oceans and go up. Getting it? So this is what is the second and first force ka, force of buoyancy and the force of this thing. Are this both the forces right or wrong? Wrong. Will we write it here? No. हम सब ये points लिखेंगे in the critical analysis. Know how to write an answer unless it is asked कि write only the shortcomings of the forces. Don't write the shortcomings in the starting point. First you are making an answer, then you will write a theory and critically analyze and answer later on. UPSC will either ask you critically analyze or either it will ask you evidences. Fine. So what did this gravitational force do? It caused northward movement of the continents. Fine. Now the gravitational force, I asked you a general knowledge, because he asked a question at the start only. Gravitational force is maximum at the poles, not at the equator. When you see the world map, इसीलिए एक general idea, most of the continents are located in the north pole, while the equator region, whether it is the northern hemisphere or southern hemisphere, has very less continent. This is the equatorial region. यहाँ पे it is dominated by water. Why? Because gravitational force is pulling most of the continents to the north. Gravitational force will act more on water or on the land? Land. Getting it? Next. The third, next point, pattern of drift. Pattern of drift. According to the Wegener, drift started in the Carboniferous period, due to the breaking of the major landmass known as Pangea. Major landmass or known as Pangea, which was surrounded by a super ocean known as Panthalassa. सबसे पहले what was there? A supercontinent. क्या नाम था supercontinent का? Pangea. What was the name of that continent which was the water that is surrounding the continent? Panthalassa. Let us look at the theory. Theory, point number 1. You have son, basic assumptions क्या है? Basic premise क्या है? Sea floats on seama without resistance. There are two types of forces. Northward के लिए differential gravitational force, westward के लिए tidal force. नोट्स में हमने इतने डिटेल में लिखा है. इन द एग्जामिनेशन यू विल बी राइटिंग in very simple manner. Introduction में he was not the original, it was the Snyder who gave his theory, but it was worked upon by Wegener. Basic assumptions: Sial is floating on seama without resistance. Second point, tidal force westwards and the gravitational force northwards were the two forces responsible for the drift. And directly start with the theory. मतलब इसको भी you will have to reduce in the answer. Fine. So this Sunday, whatever I complete till Friday, we will have a test on Sunday. Fine. Whatever we will complete till Friday, I guess we will be able to complete till Davis, till Friday. Okay. So anyways, क्योंकि वो जो मेंस वाले हैं वो टेस्ट लिख ही रहे हैं, तो you also start writing along with them. Fine. So the theory, point number 1. There was a supercontinent known as Pangea. There was a supercontinent known as Pangea, which broke into the two parts, which broke into the two parts known as Laurasia or Angara land in the north and Gondwana land in the south. During the Carboniferous period. During the Carboniferous period. During the Carboniferous period. Carboniferous period. All clear with this point? So क्या होगा? A supercontinent known as Pangea. Don't draw this diagram. I'll ask you to make a proper diagram. Now starts the second phase of our preparation, is how many of you can make world map and the map of India properly. Map of India, both. World map in 30 seconds, map of India also in 30 seconds. Fine. So this is what we should be knowing. The third phase of our practice will be map of only North America, map of only South America, map of only the certain continents. अगर ज़रूरत पड़ी तो, but that will come in climate, not in this thing. And the fourth phase of our practice will be, when we'll start paper 2, map of only half of peninsular India, map of only northeast India, exactly same name but somewhat like this. Fine. So this, or map of only some part, that is the Kutch region of Gujarat, as the need may be. Fine. So सबसे पहले अभी world map. So second point, the phase up of breaking up of the Pangea, the phase of breaking up of the Pangea, phase of breaking up of Pangea is known as opening up of Tethys, is known as opening up of Tethys. Q opening up of Tethys, tell me someone. What happened? Pangea broke into two parts, Laurasia land and Angara land. Pangea, was it surrounded by Panthalassa? Pani? Pani, did it come into the gap? And that gap is known as Tethys. So that is the opening up of Tethys. कोई लिखने की जरूरत नहीं. Means if you already know कि this Tethys Sea was formed due to the breaking up of Pangea into two parts and water of Panthalassa occupying the gap in between, that is what is the Tethys. Getting it? Understood? Exam में भी लिखने की जरूरत नहीं, notes में भी लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है. That is self understood what is the opening up of Tethys. Point number 3. The continents further broke and drifted apart. The continents further broke and drifted apart. Drifted apart. For example, the North and South America, drifted westwards, causing formation of Atlantic Ocean, about, in the bracket सिर्फ इतना याद रखना, about 50 million years ago Atlantic Ocean was formed 50 million years ago. अगर याद रहता है then write in the examination, if not you cannot remember then don't write. Atlantic Ocean 50 million years ago. Next paragraph but the same point. Similarly, the northward drifting of peninsular India and Africa which ocean resulted into the formation of Indian Ocean. Same point में, what happened due to this Tethys Sea? Africa is going northward. What will happen to the Tethys Sea? India is going northward. Will उसका size be increasing or reducing? Reducing. So the size of the Tethys Sea, those who are new, ये diagram हो चुके हैं हमारे in the previous lecture. So you will understand when we will look at the animation. So right now just try to concentrate. Fine. So the Tethys Sea will be reducing in size. Is the Tethys Sea present today where the India is there? Is Tethys Sea there? No. What is the original Tethys Sea now known as? Mediterranean Sea. Where it is present? Anyone carrying an atlas? So give it to me. Fine. So this is where India was. India started drifted to the north. India is present here. As it started drifting to the north, Africa also started drifting to the north. Australia is also started drifting to the north. But हमने लिखा सिर्फ India and Africa. बीच में what was there? This was the region of Tethys Sea. What has happened now to the Tethys Sea in the regions जहाँ पे India is there? Closed. India has filled up that gap. So where is the Tethys Sea now remaining? Between Africa and Eurasia, and today it is known as Mediterranean Sea, which is located at the same latitude as North India, as Himalayas. Tethys Sea are located today at the same latitude as Himalayas, and therefore आगे की theory, इसके बाद की theory is the geosyncline theory, and we will study in that. And you already know this कि Himalayas किससे बने हैं? Due to the Tethys Sea. Himalayas have come out of the Tethys Sea. That is, the land of the Tethys Sea has got folded, and then that land came on the top of the water, and that water was compressed, destroyed, and this resulted into the formation of one of the mighty mountains known as Himalayas. Why? Due to the continent collision, plate tectonics. Abhi nahi. But Himalayas came out of the sea. इसीलिए today when you go to Kashmir, especially the Leh Ladakh region, or even China, Tibetan Plateau region, you will find lakes are there. But surprisingly, in that cold climate, जहाँ पे the lake should be frozen, जहाँ पे the lake should be of sweet water, the lakes are saline. Saline water lakes should be present, जहाँ evaporation is so great कि water is evaporated and only salt remains. But So Moriri, Pangong So, Urmiki Lake, China, and all the lakes of the Tibetan Plateau are extremely saline. क्यों saline? Because that Tethys Sea का बचा हुआ पानी है. Caspian Sea, Tethys Sea का बचा हुआ पानी है. Right now the controversy is going on whether to declare the Caspian Sea as a lake or as a sea. Fine? But that controversy is not in our syllabus, either in GS or either in optional. So don't worry about that controversy. Black Sea, Mediterranean Sea, what is this? The Tethys Sea. Tethys Sea का बचा हुआ पानी. पंजाब, क्यों fish के fossils मिलते हैं? Why we find petroleum in Jammu Kashmir to Assam? All this is an example of an Tethys Sea. Fine? Or why the Indian mythology talks about Meru Mandar coming out of Samudra Manthan? Getting it? Tethys Sea. Indian mythology also says the same thing. There was a big snake which was tried to, and then one side mein there is Rakshas, one side mein there is Dev, both are pulling each other, and out of that came the mountain which is known as Meru. Meru mountain, the highest mountain in Indian mythology. Fine? Highest mountain in Chinese mythology came out of Samudra Manthan. So Samudra Manthan wali ye jo idea hai, see Radha Krishna wali idea is not accepted throughout India. Krishna is accepted, Radha becomes Lakshmi, Rukmini, uska naam change ho jata hai. It is present only in North India because it is a flock, it is a story of this local region. But this Samudra Manthan wali story is present right from Kazakhstan till Indonesia. Not just Indian mythology. क्यों? Mythology is there in ये जो इसी region की mythology थी, but and it has a proof also that it came out of the Tethys Sea. Fine? Getting it? So this is what has happened to the Indian region. कुछ दिन में, yes. दिन मतलब कुछ मिल 1 lakh years में, 1 lakh years में गायब हो जाएगा. That is why that region is still volcanic. Volcanoes are formed when the ocean is compressed by the continents. Alps की height बढ़ रही है. Indian Ocean. Next point. the Gondwana landmass further broke. The Gondwana landmass further broke into South America, comma, Africa, comma, peninsular India, comma, Madagascar, comma, Australia, as well as Antarctica. In the same point, Australia, India and Africa continued moving with different rates. What is the rate of movement of Africa? 3 centimeters per year नॉर्थ की तरफ मूव कर रहा है. What is the rate of movement of Australia? ऊपर की तरफ somewhere between, और ये scientific studies से I am telling you, I am not telling you any data जो वेगनर ने, this is what has been proved now. 3 centimeters per year, 7 centimeters per year, 18 centimeters per year. Fine, that is why इतना ज़्यादा distance ये cover कर पाया इंडिया. इसीलिए इंडिया हैज मूव्ड विथ सच अ ग्रेट स्पीड टू द नॉर्थ, वाइल सबसे धीरे मूव कर रहा है अफ्रीका. गेटिंग इट? अब इंडिया एंड ऑस्ट्रेलिया वेर द सेम लैंड मास, रिमेंबर दिस वाज द सेम लैंड मास, इंडिया एंड ऑस्ट्रेलिया. बट इंडियन पार्ट अब क्यों मूव कर रहा है, दैट इज बियॉन्ड स्कोप ऑफ स्टडीज, मीन्स इट इज बियॉन्ड साइंस ऑल्सो. ये सब अजम्पशंस है, मे बी कन्वेक्शनल करंट्स, रियलिटी नोबडी नोज. फाइन, दिस आर अजम्पशंस. For example, 200 years तक tetrahedral hypothesis was the most important theory. आज कोई इसको पढ़ता भी नहीं है. फिर next 50 years के लिए the most important theory was continental drift. फिर the theory became plate tectonics. Once we will understand our more things, the theory, maybe plate tectonics will also be wrong and new concept will come. Fine. So India and Australia were moving, but which is moving with great speed? India. And इसलिए Australia broke apart and India came up. But still both are moving at a speed up, which is given in your NCERT as Indian plate tectonics में we'll study. Fine. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, बिकॉज जिस प्लेट्स में ओशन डोमिनेंस ज़्यादा है, लाइक पैसिफिक प्लेट, it may further broke due to hot spots, but rate we don't know why it is causing. Maybe to some extent yes, because they are being subducted very properly, but India is not being subducted. Why India is moving at a great speed, we don't know. Up the speed of India has decreased because Asia lag gaya, and today also India is moving northward at the speed of somewhere around 5 to 7 centimeters a year, which results into the increase of height of the Himalayas by 5 centimeters every year. Mount Everest ki height is different in the textbook that has been published 10 years back, is different in the textbooks that has been published 20 years back, will be different in the textbook that will be published 10 years afterwards, because Mount Everest ka height increases by 5 centimeters every year. You push, India is pushing. Fine. हर माउंटेन की नहीं, यंग फोल्ड माउंटेन्स की, मतलब अरावलिस की नहीं बढ़ रही है क्योंकि प्रोसेस इज देयर. यस, जो जहां जहां एंडोजेनेटिक फोर्स इज डोमिनेटिंग उनकी हाइट बढ़ेगी, वेर एवर द एक्सोजेनेटिक फोर्स इज डोमिनेटिंग उनकी हाइट कम होगी. That is why process and structure both play an important role in the formation of the landforms, not time. Full stop. Where did we, what did we write? India, Australia and India, different rates. With Australia occupying its present position in last 300 years, occupying its present position in last 300 years, in last 300 years. Next, as the continents moved, as the continents moved, the position of the equator, the position of the equator and the poles also shifted, are also shifted, which Wegener calls as wandering of the poles, which Wegener calls as wandering of the poles. Example, once upon a time, once upon a time, in the Silurian age, in the Silurian age, bracket में 350 million years ago, Silurian age, 350 million years ago, the equator passed through Norway. The equator passed through Norway. During the Carboniferous period, the equator passed through South America, North Atlantic Ocean, and Eurasia. No, reality. Equator passed through South America, North Atlantic Ocean, and Eurasia. Full stop. What is the equator? What is the equator? Imaginary line dividing the earth into two hemispheres, or can I say, forget hemispheres, the imaginary line that divides the center of the sphere. So how can equator change its position? Equator means once upon a time equator passed through what we have written here. Means they are saying once upon a time the equator, I will show you. The equator passed through South America, then North Atlantic Ocean and Eurasia. ऐसा इक्वेटर था. ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है? सेंटर ऑफ द अर्थ तो अर्थ ही रहेगा. And how can equator change the position? Yes, इसका मतलब equator has not changed the position. This places were at the equator. Now this places have drifted. Understood? Equator is the center of the earth. It is still present there. But once upon a time, this part of the world was at the equator. Today, this is at the equator. Fine? Once upon a time, UK, Eurasia was here at the equator. Then it has drifted to the north and occupied this position. So today, India, once upon a time, means it was much to the south. If this was at the equator, India was still at the south. All the continents have drifted northwards, and today, this is the original position, and the equator, the place which was at the equator has drifted to the north. Fine? What did I say? When does the coal form? When the tropical vegetation, that is any kind of a vegetation that is present between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, goes below huge amount of fresh water and it is buried under pressure, but under the fresh water, river waters. Fine? Which were one of the largest deposits of the coal? The tropical vegetation. Okay, so ye hai Tropic of Cancer. Fine? This is where the Tropic of Capricorn is. These are the tropics. Getting it? But when Wegener was studying, where did he find the coal deposits? In this region. Where did he find the coal deposits? Why did industrial revolution started in England? Because of the discovery of coal. Why Russia was once upon a time such a big superpower? Because Russia is rich in iron ore. हो सकता है, but Russia is also extremely rich in coal. क्या हुआ बाद में? Russia, when it got divided, most of the iron producing regions remain with Russia and coal producing regions went to Ukraine. इसीलिए तो आज इतना why Russia wants to capture the Crimean Peninsula? Why Russia still wants that part of Ukraine? Iron ore है आपके पास, but if you are not, if there is electricity is not there, what you will do with that iron ore? You will export. So means Russia will become an exporting nation of raw material. If you export the raw material, that is of no use. We have enough cotton. What will happen if you export the cotton? We will supply it to any country, they will manufacture the clothes and they will sell us that same our cotton but at a higher cost in the terms of shirts. So you should never be the supplier of raw material. Getting it? अब रशिया के पास coal है, but iron is there, but coal is with Ukraine. Ukraine is now a member of NATO, and Russia, NATO is because to oppose the Russia. Getting it? So this region is the region of one of the coal deposits, पुराना coal deposits. इतना ज़्यादा आयरन है रशिया में कि one region of Russia is known as KMA, Kursk's magnetic anomaly. Magnetic anomaly means it is so rich in iron कि it looks as if वहाँ पे magnet चिपक जाता है. Fine? इतना ज़्यादा कोल है यहाँ पे कि this region is known as Kuzbas, Donbass. In Russian language, extremely rich in coal. Fine? But coal should not be above the tropics. It is still present above the tropics. Ireland में coal. In this region there is a coal. In this region there is a coal. Why? You get an answer there. This was the region where there was the Carboniferous equator. Means all these parts were here. Then South America has drifted and this part has drifted. Getting it? So this is what is known as the change in the equator. Equator has remained at the same, but the places have changed. Getting it? Everyone? Any doubts? Yes. South America, India, Australia, Antarctica, extremely rich in coal. Whatever mineral you find in India, the same mineral you will find in Australia, the same mineral you will find in Brazil. Getting it? Q? Land is same. Political boundaries are there, but physical geological properties is same. Yeah. The reason is क्योंकि इंडिया का जो कोल है, it is much new as compared to the Australia का कोल. जितना old the coal is there, coal कैसे बनता है? When something goes below the fresh water, Fine. So if old coal is there, जो water है, it is destroyed, it is evaporated. जितना new coal is there, there is more moisture in it. So when you burn something which is having a moisture, धुआं ज़्यादा निकलेगा, energy कम मिलेगी. If you burn something which is very old, जिसमें moisture is not there, it will not give at all smoke. It will give more energy. So the older the coal, better it is. Younger the coal, less. So why India ka coal? When did coal form? Coal formed in the Carboniferous period. Where was India in the Carboniferous period? Not at the equator. Fine. And जब end होने आया Carboniferous period, then coal started forming in India, because India came in that position. So India ka coal is generally 200 to 300 years older as compared to the other जो best quality coal है. इसलिए India के coal में there is more moisture and sulfur. Getting it? But that means we do not have anthracite in India. We have bituminous coal in India, which is a second grade coal. इसलिए quality of coal is different. Fine. But iron ore, India ka is also one of the best quality iron ore. Australia ka also is one of the best quality iron ore. Fine. What? Yes. Landmass same है. But obviously, see, if the landmass is same, still इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि हर जगह यूरेनियम means metallic minerals will be distributed equally. इंडिया में कुछ पार्ट में यूरेनियम है, but इतना ज़्यादा नहीं, because coincidentally यूरेनियम वाला landmass became Australia. फिर भी इंडिया में लैंड यूरेनियम है. वेयर? झारखंड, जादूगौड़ा, तुमला पिल्ले, आंध्र प्रदेश. ज्वाइन करो, वो ऑस्ट्रेलिया को ज्वाइन हो जाता है, ईस्टर्न पार्ट. फाइन. And see, India has one of the largest uranium deposits, ऐसे कहा जाता है, at नवरा पहाड़ in Andhra Pradesh, in Telangana. But हमारे पास technology नहीं है for such deep mining. So technology, because we don't have, when we don't have technology, we invite the private players. Example, you see, metro is built by PWD or L&T. L&T. Why? Because PWD does not have the same technology. Once you become an engineer in PWD, will you be going to attending seminars, doing research? No. Government officers will get stuck in the jobs, file pass karne mein. Fine. So there is no technological upgradation. But private players are having new technologies. They have money. Fine. So the same thing applies here. There is enough uranium, but we do not have technology. But because uranium is used in nuclear energy, we cannot invite private players and do uranium mining in India. Otherwise, we have invited private players in coal. We have invited private players in iron ore. We have invited private players in natural gas mining, except for uranium. Why? Sensitive material. Uranium Corporation India Limited has only the authority. Monopoly hai. And when there is monopoly, there is no competition. When there is no competition, क्या फर्क पड़ता है? Getting it? एनएसजी का मेंबर बन जाता है, इंडिया कभी नहीं करेगा, क्योंकि फॉरेन प्लेयर्स आएंगे. टेक्नोलॉजी मिलेगी हमें, बट इंडिया कभी नहीं करेगा. क्यों नहीं करेगा? फॉरेन प्लेयर आया, कर दिया माइनिंग, और फिर से भोपाल गैस ट्रेजेडी जैसा कोई ट्रेजेडी हुई तो क्या करोगे? दैट इज व्हाई नो प्राइवेट प्लेयर्स इन न्यूक्लियर. एनएसजी का और उसका टोटली अलग है. गेटिंग इट? नेक्स्ट. सो जीएस में ये सब नहीं लिखते हम. वॉन्डरिंग ऑफ द पोल्स, ओपनिंग अप ऑफ द टेथिस. ऑप्शनल का आंसर विल बी डिफरेंट फ्रॉम जीएस का आंसर ओनली बाय दिस कीवर्ड्स. फाइन. वॉन्डरिंग ऑफ द पोल्स एक्सेट्रा. लीव सम डायग्राम, बिकॉज ये डायग्राम हमें बनाना है. कैन यू मेक द वर्ल्ड मैप? सो मेक इट नाउ. देखो पहले कैसे बनता है आपसे. There is a very small technique. Look at the way I am drawing. I start from North America. I take it up, पीछे पीछे थोड़ा ऊपर, then I come down, stop, then I go it bit here, then I take this and stop here. Fine. अब अगर नीचे से if you try to go up, मैप हमेशा खराब बनेगा. Then you start from here. Make a C. एक, दो, तीन. Make another C. Make the Gulf of Florida and take it down and then come downwards. And this is the map of North and South America. Fine. Second step is make a C, थोड़ा ऊपर से, come down, go up, Horn of Africa, make India, Malaya Peninsula, South China Sea, and then go up. Stop, come back to this region. इतना डिटेल की जरूरत नहीं. Make up Europe, go inside, make Eurasia, and then take it directly here. Then make Japan, then give the finishing touches, Sumatra, Java, Bali, Papua New Guinea, Borneo. Australia is very easy. New Zealand. Map ज़्यादा अच्छा दिखेगा if you make Sri Lanka, if you make Madagascar, if you make Greenland and Iceland. Fine. So this is the map of the world. You will have to practice it again and again. The more you try to show the relief features, your map will be more distorted. जितना हो सके make straight lines. If you don't use the technique which I tell you, map ऐसे बनेगा. If you use the technique, first इसमें भी tomorrow I'll give you a printout of outline of map of India and the world, small इसमें, because you do not have luxury, though even if the map is very good, you do not have luxury of making this big map in the exam. Fine? Because your space will be this much in the exam, margins. This will be, your map should be this much, maximum. So that I have that, and you just ये करो, उसके ऊपर tracing करो. Once you do the tracing, your maps will be very easy. Fine. You should know this year for the first time, मतलब हमें पता चला है केस. If you write ever in the margins, means हमें क्या आदत होती है, this is the margin of UPSC, we keep on writing an answer and rather than turning the page हम थोड़े थोड़े words इस margin में लिख देते हैं. And you should never do it. We have an वहाँ पे लिखा है UPSC ने specifically कि you should never write in the margin, otherwise negative marking will be given. And we have this year a person who has got negative marking में minus 36 marks in the mains, and he missed his selection by 12 marks. Fine. So he has he should, by original marks he should have got IRS. Right. वहाँ पे लिखा है, फिर रेड इसमें लिखा है -36 ड्यू टू नेगेटिव मार्किंग एंड इज फाइनल टोटल. Once you finish this, you should draw from here this as a reference point. ओल्ड इक्वेटर कार्बोनिफरस, उसके बाद टर्शियरी पीरियड केम जब हिमालयाज बने थे. सो दैट इज द ब्लू कलर लाइन. सो डू वी फाइंड टर्शियरी इक्वेटर पासिंग थ्रू रीजन जहां पे हिमालयाज है, राइट? सो इन जनरल स्टडीज, नॉट इन ऑप्शनल, यू विल स्टडी टर्शियरी कोल इज फाउंड इन हिमालयाज. गेटिंग इट? व्हाई? बिकॉज द इक्वेटर वॉज दैट टाइम नियर द हिमालयाज. एक प्लेस भी आप याद रखोगे, नामचिक नामफुक इन अरुणाचल प्रदेश. टर्शियरी कोल, दैट इज द कोल दैट वॉज फॉर्म्ड इन द टर्शियरी पीरियड. And then this is the present day equator. So this shows how the continents have moved northwards. आगे जाके equator will be still below. Equator का position has not changed much in South America, जितना in Asia, because Wagner says North and South America are moving westwards. Asia and Africa is moving northwards. So जो the continent which is moving northwards, उसमें the equator का position is going to change. Fine? Fine with this? Next point. thus the drifting of the continents, thus the drifting of the continents ultimately gave rise to the present day arrangement of the continents. Ultimately gave rise to the present day arrangement of the continents. Drifting of the continents ultimately gave rise to the present day arrangement of the continents. Mention this also in the exam. Gave rise to present day arrangement of the continents. Next point. According to the Wegener, the edges of westward moving continents were crumpled. Crumple मतलब झुर्रियां पड़ना, that is wrinkles, were crumpled to give rise to fold mountains such as Andes and Rockies. To give rise to fold mountains such as Andes and Rockies due to the resistance of Sima. ठीक है, वेस्टवर्ड मूविंग कॉन्टिनेंट्स का तो उसने बता दिया, रॉकीज एंड एंडीज. बट प्रॉब्लम क्या है? व्हाट इज दिस फर्स्ट अजम्पशन वी हैव रिटन? सियाल फ्लोट्स ऑन सीमा विदाउट रेजिस्टेंस. और अब क्या व्हाट इज सेइंग? द रॉकीज एंड एंडीज वेर फॉर्म ड्यू टू द रेजिस्टेंस ऑफ सीमा, वेर क्रम्बल्ड टू फॉर्म एंडीज एंड रॉकीज ड्यू टू द रेजिस्टेंस ऑफ सीमा. किसको रेजिस्ट किया सीमा ने? सियाल को. So in first assumption he says Sial is floating on Sima without resistance. और जब उसको mountain explain करना है, when he wants to tell that how the mountains are forming, he then says कि there was resistance. So this is not science, ना? ये तो arts हो गया फिर. That is changing the theory as he wants. Science is cause and effect properly, fine? So that is why this is the first major flaw. Second major flaw उसी point में. Similarly, island arcs of Indonesia, Malaysia, Japan. ये जो islands है which are arc like in shape, they are known as island arcs. Island arcs of Indonesia, Malaysia, Japan were formed because of differential rates of continental drift. ये सब एग्जाम में लिखने का इतना स्कोप नहीं है, so try to use the important words. Differential rates of continental drift. Differential rate of continental drift means continents sometimes drifted at a very slow rate, suddenly they started drifting at a fast rate, so कुछ part पीछे रह गया. Some part जो पीछे रह गया वे बन गए श्रीलंका. India was drifting, फिर इंडिया का स्पीड चेंज हो गया, इंडिया का कभी स्पीड बहुत बड़ा तो एक पार्ट टूट के रह गया, that became श्रीलंका. North and South America were drifting and suddenly they started drifting at a fast rate, so जो पूछ उसकी पीछे रह गई, that became West Indies. Fine? अफ्रीका वाज ड्रिफ्टिंग, जो पार्ट उसका टूट के पीछे रह गया वो रह गया मैडागास्कर. अगेन मतलब कुछ तो प्रूव करने के लिए कुछ भी बनाना, ऐसा है ये वेगनर की थियरी. फाइन? कि गाड़ी जा रही है, सडनली एक्सीलेटर दबाया तो पीछे धुआं रह गया, वो बन गए islands. Fine. So this is not a part properly explained. So these are the second major flaws. Island arcs skew because these are arc like in shape. See, fine. Plate tectonic theory explains this. What are the famous island arcs in the world? Just your GK. Caribbean islands. Fine. Cuba से लेके entire West Indies cricket team. Second island arc, Indonesia, ये वाला पूरा region. Third important island arc, Philippines. Fourth important island arc, Japan. Sri Lanka is not an island arc because it is just an island. Island arc are group of islands which are arc like in shape. Iceland is also not an island arc. Means imagine, according to Wegener, Greenland जा रहा है, suddenly one part of Greenland went very fast, पीछे टूट के one part रह गया, and that is Iceland. That is what he meant. So इतना सब लिखने से अच्छा, if you know the keyword differential rates, your point is done. Fine. That is what Wegener says. All this have because the islands were moving at different speed, तो टूट के रह गया. Plate tectonics says this island arcs are hotspots. We'll study this in plate tectonics, or they are due to ocean-ocean convergence. Plate tectonics will give an answer, not this one. Fine. So this is his theory. So what? Tell me, what are the criticisms you will be writing? खुद ही सोचो criticism. All the assumptions of his theory are wrong. Fine. ऐसे forces नहीं है. Second, Sial is floating on सीमा without resistance. क्यों? नीचे किसी ने lubrication डाला है कि it is oil है and it is floating without resistance. ऐसे हो ही नहीं सकता. Fine. Now the concept is Sial is not floating on सीमा. Now the concept is lithosphere floats on asthenosphere. There is no concept of Sial and सीमा. Sial and सीमा is same plates, and these plates are lithosphere, and this lithosphere floats on asthenosphere. किसने बताया ये? Plate tectonics theory. Fine. What is the second problem of his theory? See how casually we have written कि India is moving westwards, Australia is moving westwards, northwards, the North and South America is moving westward. What you call as a science? What is the difference between humanities and science? Science में सबसे पहले there is the step-by-step analysis of the facts based on universal truth. Means if the law of gravitation applies at India, it should apply at each and every part of the world. That is what is a science. Fine. Arts is democracy applies in India, democracy applies in USA, but what is democracy is very, very forget India. Democracy applies in India, but democracy applies in India means rule of the people, but rule of the people depends upon whether you are Ambani or whether you are a politician or whether you are a common man. That is what is arts. Fine. Science में ऐसे नहीं है. Will the gravitational force differentiate? नहीं. ये poor आदमी है, मैं इसके सर पे जोर से गिरूंगा. And he is rich, so no, I will धीरे से sit on. So that is not there. This is not present in his theory. ये पहले कौन सा? Why India moved with greater speed? Why Africa moved in this particular direction only? Fine. These are the flaws in his theory. So first we'll write criticism of his theory. When you study the criticisms first and then write the positive points, you will be able to relate it much better. Fine. So the first criticism is initially Wegener assumes that Sial floats on Sima without resistance. Initially Wegener assumes that Sial floats on Sima without resistance. But later on in his theory says that mountains are formed. Mountains are formed. In his theory says that mountains are formed due to resistance of Sial over Sima. due to resistance of Cl over sigma. Fine. Thus, there are contradictions in his theory. Thus, there are contradictions in his theory. Second point, inadequate forces applied. Inadequate forces applied. Inadequate forces applied. In this, you write the tidal force and the force of buoyancy cannot properly explain the drift, अब see, tidal force does it cause drifting of the continents? Yes, continents को हिला सकता है. Drifting, that is they may cause drifting of the continents. The force which is going to cause high tides and low tides may pull the continents, provided the tidal force is 10,000 million times stronger than the present day force. Then only it will cause drifting. But if we assume कि हाँ maybe उस समय हो सकता है tidal force 10,000 million times stronger. So अगर इतना ज़्यादा stronger force होता tidal 10,000 million times, तो अर्थ का rotation ही रुक जाता. अर्थ जाके collide होता to moon. Tidal force is primarily due to moon. Fine. So tidal force is there. That is, again I tell you, during Amavasya and Purnima, gravitational force of moon on the earth is very strong. इसीलिए पानी ऊपर चला जाता है. That is, we will call this as high tides. But कभी land आदमी ऊपर नहीं जाता towards the moon. उस आदमी को खींचने के लिए, for someone to pull the man or to mountain towards itself, the tidal force should be 10,000 million times stronger, not what is present today. Fine. So उसमें उस point में sub point, the tidal force is highly inadequate. The tidal force is highly inadequate for westward drifting of the continents, and similarly, the force of buoyancy and the gravity. Similarly, the force of buoyancy and gravity is also very weak. Force of buoyancy and gravity is also very weak. Next point. Wegener could not properly explain the direction and the time of drift, direction and the proper time of the drifting of the continents, Understood? He could not tell you the sequence कि पहले क्या हुआ, बाद में क्या हुआ. Next point. When does this theory start? Carboniferous period. That is the biggest criticism. Wegener could not explain why drifting started only in the Carboniferous period. Or in other words, could not explain the trigger mechanism could not explain the trigger mechanism. कुछ तो trigger होना चाहिए, and something, some event should have occurred. That is what is the trigger mechanism. Trigger mechanism that caused breaking up of Pangea. That caused breaking up of Pangea in the Carboniferous period. Pangea in the Carboniferous period. Yes. Yes, yes, mantle plume से. और mantle plume से क्या? Continents नहीं टूटेंगे, oceanic crust टूटेगा. इसीलिए next theory is sea floor spreading. Because what the Pangea was, it was having numerous islands also. It was not just one solid body. Solid body would not have cracked. There were numerous islands. Those cracked. They became the Tethys. Getting it? And the last point, even the evidences such as jigsaw fit of the continents, such as so I told you what is the jigsaw fit. इन दोनों को join कर लो, that is what is known as the jigsaw fit. Jigsaw fit of the continents, or the distribution of fossils, have some limitations. Next paragraph. Therefore, Wegener's continental drift theory. See now, how many times you will write the same word continental drift in the examination? Only once. The only difference is when you write continental drift theory, एक बार पूरा लिखो, and then in the bracket write CDT, and then you can use the word CDT entirely in the paper, in that answer. But एक बार लिखना है तुम्हें. Similarly, economics में International Monetary Fund, you will have to write it once, and then bracket में IMF. Remember this trick even in GS also. Otherwise, you will be writing the same words again and again. But कौन सा shortcut लिखना है? Only which are internationally accepted. Fine? ऐसा नहीं कि your own shortcut ND लिख दिया न्यू दिल्ली के लिए. No. Right? So, Wegener's continental drift theory earned more criticism, or suffered more criticism than the praise. Not earned. Suffered more criticism than the praises. Next is the positives or the evidences. What is the biggest positive of his theory? The biggest evidences, not the positive. Means the first is jigsaw fit. Your answer should start with the jigsaw fit. That is the most important evidence. Hamesha mains mein when you write anything, you have to write in the order of their importance. Fine. The first is jigsaw fit of the continents. Jigsaw fit of the continents. So, the evidences have proved, have proved that the continents on the either side of the Atlantic Ocean, continents on the either side of the Atlantic Ocean, continents on the either side of the Atlantic Ocean exactly fit into each other. Continents on the either side of the Atlantic Ocean exactly fit into each other, which means that these continents were once together. Which means that these continents were once together. These continents were once together. You can draw this diagram. And if your drawing skills are good, then only you can draw the next, which I am drawing. The choice is yours. Getting it? North America, Africa, South America, this all were once together. इसलिए ऐसा shape है North America का. This is what is meant by jigsaw fit of the continents. ये तो ड्रॉ करना ही है, दिस तो इवन गिवन इन योर एनसीईआरटी, ये तो जीएस में भी ड्रॉ करना है. The question comes. In the same point, can I continue? Ahmed and Krishna. Ahmed and Krishna have proved, these are the two important geographers, Ahmed and Krishna have proved that southern India and Western Australia, were once united to form a single landmass. Second evidence. Understood this jigsaw fit? They fit into each other. Second evidence. What is the geological evidence? In the same diagram we have drawn earlier, right? Just mark the way I am marking. अगर ये बनाया है तो ही मार्क करना, अदरवाइज कोई जरूरत नहीं. Otherwise this is enough. What is the same rocks? जहां जहां red color है, both the rocks are same. Second evidence is presence of same rocks. Presence of same rocks on the either side of Atlantic. Presence of same rocks on the either side of Atlantic. Similarly, the mountains of no need of this diagram, I am just telling you what does this point means. The mountains of Appalachians, कहाँ पे Appalachian mountains? North America, USA में mountains of Appalachians are similar to the mountains of Ireland. Where is Ireland? England. And mountains of Scandinavia or Norway. मतलब नॉर्थ अमेरिका का ये माउंटेन Appalachian is similar to the mountain of Ireland and the Scandinavian mountains. Why? Because this was once upon a time a single mountain and this was all together. Fine. Now the continents have drifted apart. बीच में is thousands of kilometers of Atlantic Ocean, and we will study it later on that Appalachians are rich in coal. So obviously Ireland is also rich in coal. Sweden, Scandinavia is also rich in coal क्योंकि mountains वही है. Fine. This was all together once. Next point. Distribution of fossils. Distribution of fossils. The bedrocks of or the bedrocks or the rocks of South America, Africa, Peninsular India, Australia and Antarctica, have fossils of Glossopetris. Have the fossils of Glossopetris. Glossopetris क्या है? Fern, a tree, a small plant, a fern. Fern is a very small plant. Fine. Full stop. इससे क्या पता लगता है? There can be tiger in Russia, there can be tiger in India. What is big thing in it? This is not tiger, this is plant. Plant, unlike animals, cannot migrate. It can just expand. How it can expand? A plant hai, uska pollens are carried by the wind and falls nearby. It grows there. When it is carried by the wind, it falls nearby. Which means South America, Africa, India, Australia and Antarctica, this all were once a single landmass, means Gondwana. Then only the tree can propagate. Tree cannot propagate if there is Indian Ocean. Tree, will it grow in the water? Will it grow in the ocean? No. It can propagate only on the land. That means if this entire region, see, this is the region of where Glossopetris flora is found. This entire region. Today, climate is different. Today, their position is different. Means the tree which is present in India, the same fossil is found in Antarctica, which is so many kilometers, lakhs of kilometers away. How it is possible? इसका मतलब ये सब एक साथ थे. Otherwise, polar region Antarctica, subtropical region India and Australia, equatorial region Africa and South America. Climate is different, but tree ka fossil is, for plant ka fossil is same. Not possible. Which means once upon a time this was continued and sab mein ek hi climate tha. Why? Because they were present near at the same latitudes. Fine. This is the biggest evidence. This is the biggest evidence which tells such as which tells that continents were once united to in tells that continents were once united in the form of the Gondwana landmass. Once united in the form of Gondwana landmass. Fine. Similarly, there are numerous zoological evidences. Tree hai to ye botanical evidence hai, right? Similarly, there are numerous zoological evidences. Zoological evidences, including the behavior of lemmings, which have tendency to migrate westwards. Whenever there is increase in the population. Whenever there is increase in their population. Understand what are lemmings? Lemmings are very small rat-like animals or rats of Scandinavia. Fine, this region. How is this coast? Norway ka coast is somewhat like this. Means this is Norway ka end and suddenly there is a huge mountain and uske baad there is a sea. क्यों? Glaciers ने erode किया है land mass को. Now whenever the lemmings का population increases, they are known for mass suicide. Actually, it is not mass suicide. What happens? These lemmings think that our population has increased, so they will migrate, so that because the land mass is still there and we will go and settle in Canada. But what they have not realized is that was much earlier. Ab kuch nahi hai. So they start migrating in groups. Rat hai, huge groups mein they migrate. And suddenly jab khai aati hai or valley comes, the first batch falls into the sea and die. Right? So that is one of the evidence. But hame likhne ka itna scope nahi. But have you understood why we have written? This is what the lemmings do. Why? Because abhi tak it is conditioned. Maybe there is a space there. दे आर नॉट दैट इंटेलिजेंट एज ह्यूमन बींग्स, सो उनके मेमोरी में अभी तक आया नहीं कि अब स्पेस खत्म है. सिमिलरली स्मॉलर एनिमल्स, जब भी आग लगती है अफ्रीका में, दे डू नॉट नेवर रन टू द ईस्ट, दे ऑलवेज रन टू द वेस्ट. आज भी ऐसा लगता है कि कॉन्टिनेंट्स हैव जॉइंड टुगेदर. फाइन, सो विल कंटिन्यू टुमारो देन. Monsoon is based on numerous factors. अभी तो एक factor is pollution and global warming.